Hi, everyone, and welcome to Spark Reynolds Facebook Live and podcast. As you see, Brian is not here. We have a guest, and I'm excited about our guest, Jen Smith from the I lost my Frugal Friends. That's what it is. Frugal Friends podcast. Sorry. Um, this week, again, as I said, Jen Smith is a personal finance writer and co-host of Frugal Friends Podcast. And I was excited. I was reading some, and I have listened. And you and your husband paid off $78,000 of debt in 2 years, which is phenomenal. But before we jump in, I just want to find out where everybody is joining in from. And again, if you have any questions for me or Jen, please just pop them in the chat. This is an interactive thing. We don't sit here and just lecture. And I also want to remind everyone that Thursday, Brian and I are doing a free masterclass. We're not selling anything on 9 alternative real estate income streams. And I think with today's real estate market, that is probably a thing to keep an eye on. I'm going to throw the link in there to join if you guys want. And Tara, who is our social media manager and everything else, says hi, Jen.
Hi.
So with all of this, Jen, I want to thank you for joining me today. I'm excited about learning about this because I know I'm going to learn with everybody else. So can you just start off and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started? I read that you started out as you were an acupuncturist. So tell us how you got where you got.
Yeah. Well, acupuncture school is how I got my $50,000 of debt that I had to pay off. And then getting married added about 24,000. And with everything in total, it was, we had $78,000 of debt.
Wow.
And yeah, which was pretty overwhelming, seeing as how when I got married, my husband was unemployed and I only made like $35,000 a year take home. So I thought we were going to be in debt forever. I just didn't see another way. So I started where most people start, like with their debt. Most people think they're going to have debt forever. And then it took like my fiance at the time, like telling me to dream about what our future could be like what I really wanted to do. Yeah. And so I definitely wanted to live differently than my parents did. It was very paycheck to paycheck. I wanted to foster eventually, which I know is very time consuming and emotionally strenuous. And so I didn't want to be tied to the anxious and negative emotions that I tied with my debt. I didn't want to be also tied to those, as well as the financial ties of having to work to pay, probably almost $1,000, maybe more, per month just in debt payments for decades.
You said foster. You want to take in foster children?
Yeah, eventually we would. I have a 2-year-old son right now, and so one day we would like to, and sometime after he gets potty trained.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
I went down that route. That's why I asked.
Yeah,
I actually had some foster kids in my life. It's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I worked in group foster homes for several years. But yeah, like that's the kind of stuff that motivated me to think, okay, if we do this and really buckle down for 5 years, then that could free up so much mental and emotional energy and freedom for the next 50, 60, 70, however many years we have left. So that was really the catalyst of my getting financially savvy. And at first I thought I could out earn my lifestyle and pay off extra debt by working extra. And several months in, I got shingles from all of the stress. Yeah. So I knew overworking myself was not going to be sustainable. And so that's when I started to get interested in saving money and controlling my spending. And I realized that because I was in a, the scarcity mindset that most middle class children are in, where I buy generic because I can't afford name brand, but I also buy Starbucks every other day.
Starbucks always seems to come up in
It
these
is.
thoughts. It's
Yeah, yeah,
funny.
yeah. I don't know why, but so there was just like a disconnect of what I could afford, what I wanted to buy. So I found that um I thought I couldn't cut any more of my spending because I was already like buying generic, but I realized that there was so much of my spending that was impulsive or mindless or habitual. And so I really got interested in that area. And that led me to start my first blog. And then now a podcast, Frugal Friends, that I host with my really good friend, Jill.
Very cool. Now, you must have seen a lot of stories of people that were successful in this. That has to feel good. I mean, that's
Yeah, it was. I mean, debt payoff stories are anybody's like success story is an
mhm,
inspiration. I'm sure it's how many people got into real estate, is seeing like people creating passive income, quitting their jobs, like
mhm.
living off of flipping and rentals and stuff. So success stories like definitely played a role in me beginning to believe that I could do like what we did. And we thought it was going to take 5 years, but it actually took us 2 years to pay off $78,000, just because when we got rolling, everything snowballed. It's like it takes you a long time to get used to it. And then once you do, it kind of just like goes off. So that's how it was for us. And it turned out to be much quicker than we anticipated.
So let me ask you this. What would you say are your top best tips for somebody embarking on financial independence and trying to go for a frugal life?
Mm-hmm. Most people going for financial independence are already pretty frugal. They tend to be like a more frugal type of person. We have a lot of FI seekers in our Frugal Friends community on Facebook and on our membership. And so we love um, people on fire. We're not personally there because I love working and I just could never see myself not working. But I do. I mean, I love the idea of being financially independent earlier than normal.
Right.
So I think for most FI people, I think what I have to tell them is to um, almost be less frugal. I think we usually equate frugal with cheap. And so often in the FI community, frugality is a race to the bottom. It's how little can I spend? How much can I increase my savings
Hmm.
rate? And we almost do frugality at the expense of other people, whether it's people in our lives or
Hmm.
people we don't even know. Just going towards this race to the bottom. And it's something like that you have to drill in your mind, like frugal does not equal cheap. Cheap
Right.
is a disservice to either those around us, like our family or friends or coworkers. And it can also be a disservice to people internationally. So when you buy fast fashion, um, the workers that make those garments, how are they being treated?
Right.
You're buying that, fast food, how are the employees at those companies being paid, stuff like that. Yeah, and people will forego vacations. So I think,
It's funny. Somebody, Christina just said no vacations,
yeah.
but you
Yeah,
can actually take. There are ways to do it. I mean,
yeah, you can definitely, like, we love travel hacking. Travel hacking is an amazing way to take vacations frugally. So I think kind of separating frugal from cheap and saying, what are the things that I value? What are the things that I really love? And spending lavishly on those things without guilt. Because that can be kind of like guilt inducing too when you
hmm
spend any money, because it's like lowering your savings rate. Uh, so to be spending without guilt in the things you really, really love and identifying what those things are, putting those things in your budget without guilt, And then figuring out what are the things you don't care about and just completely eliminating those
Right.
things from your budget.
Now, on your podcast, do you provide like creative ways to do this, like actual, plans on how to do these things in different ways, like whether it's your food bill, your clothing,
Mm-hmm.
vacations?
Yeah, we're big proponents that there's no one right way to do frugality. You kind of have to. We say we live in the radical middle because we don't fall on either side of like I buy anything I want and just I'll become an entrepreneur and make $500,000. We also don't lie on the side of living like we're in the Great Depression.
Right.
We're in this
Right.
radical middle that nobody likes to talk about, and it's different for everyone. And so
Mhm.
we try to cover topics and we try to cover all the sides of the topic so that you can find what's right for you. So we do have some like specific how to save money on moving or how to
Mhm.
save money on energy costs or something. Those are kind of a few recent ones. But then we talk a lot about spending psychology too.
Which is
Like right,
awesome.
yeah, right now we're running a values-based budgeting challenge in our membership. And our members are going through and finding their core values and tying them back to every area of budgeting. So not just the expenses, but also how you earn the income. Because the
Mm.
income might be one line on your budget, but it's the most important line. So that and wealth building, because investing, should also be a line on your budget. So we're trying to connect our core values to all of these things that we do financially so
Right.
that being frugal and budgeting and spending intentionally can be something you feel good about, you do enthusiastically. And it's not just like a means to a FI number or a means to a retirement date.
It's very interesting. I mean, from on the real estate end of things, we talk a lot about house hacking and things like that, and it's I'm going to date myself. I always do. But back in the day, before any of this was, house hacking was even a word. Brian and I joke around because I was house hacking. I was a single mom and needed daycare. So I ended up getting somebody in and helping me with the kids, but also paying for part of my rent. So that enabled me to start, being able to provide not only for my kids, but also save and all that. So, and now it's called house hacking. So it's interesting, but it's amazing. And we were talking a little bit before we came on live about how schools don't teach anything like this. And I really believe that it should be somewhere um, in in the schools for these kids to learn some of these things. So, with that being said, I noticed that you have a 7-day no spending challenge. Tell us
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah. So we love challenges. Like our membership is a primarily an accountability and small group matching service, but we do group challenges every 6 weeks.
And that has to
Um,
help motivate.
right. We use that external motivator of a challenge to help people identify internal motivators, which are far more powerful than external motivators.
Right.
Um, so, um, so yeah, like we love challenges. So we offer everybody gets a free challenge if you are a listener of Frugal Friends or anywhere we are anywhere.
Mhm.
And so that's at frugalfriendspodcast.com/free. And it's just a mini workbook where you can prepare for a no spend challenge, do one, and then have questions like every day and then follow up questions to kind of reflect on what you learned during the no spend challenge. I think they can get a bad rap because they seem kind of like the fasting diets of the personal finance world. But if you use them as a way to pause from all of your regular spending, step back, change up your routine, because we kind of use habit psychology in that like cue, routine, reward. So if you like shimmy up your cues and your routines, then you shimmy up your cues, then you shimmy up your routines. And
Mhm.
so You can change a lot of mindless spending and impulsive spending and habitual spending just by taking a step back for 1 week and being intentional to not spend money on discretionary items or really whatever you decide you don't want to spend money on.
Right.
Obviously, we still pay our bills, we put gas in our car because nobody is impulsively spending on gas. This is really something to show you where your not weaknesses are, but like what things have gotten beyond you? Like, what things in your life are you just like not thinking of, not having control over? Because having self discipline and knowing yourself and being intentional with your spending can help long term in more things than just like, $5 lattes. That's not like really what we're looking at. We're
Right.
looking to kind of refine our habits and our routines long term.
Awesome. That is great. I did put the link in for anybody who wants to go ahead and take find out about Jen first, but also look into this no spending challenge. I think I'm going to. I could use the help.
Everyone
And
always, by day 7, everyone always is like learns something that they need to focus going forward. And we say if you just pick one thing that you learned and work on that going forward for a few months after, you've made a lifelong habit change that you wouldn't have made if you didn't find out about it while you were doing this like no spend week.
and Tara says, and I think I'm going to be in with her. I'm going to check it out. Um, but that this is great, and you know what, the times that we're in, it's good to start getting this kind of mindset on, because there is ways to do this without feeling like we were talking about earlier, that deprivation thing, like we just got to eat oodles and noodles for the next month so that we could save money.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that's not you, Jen, for joining us. Excited to check out your podcast. And anybody else, please reach out. There's a link in the chats. And thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Have a great day, everyone.